Well, hi to all my boredom busters, and welcome to all you new hobby hunters. I am your host, Brad Claybaugh, and this is Brad's Boredom Busters. We are the channel that explores all kinds of arts and crafts, and so if you're looking for something new to do, this is the place for you. All right, and on today's video, it is a request from one of my viewers. She asked to see a demonstration on rag rugs. And so we are going to do that for her. Yes, Miss M, this is for you. But this is also going to be a two-part video, so you'll have to check out both of them. But before we get into this video, it's time for Buster to do his thing and show you how to subscribe. Take it away, Buster. All right, thank you, Buster. That was beautiful. All right, yes, as I said, this is going to be a two-part video on how to make rag rugs. My viewer, Miss M, said she had some scrap fabric that she wanted to use up and was curious on how to make rag rugs. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. But it's going to be a two-parter because there are two different methods on how to make rag rugs. Both of them are very simple. The first one I'm going to show you is practically a no-sew project. It's primarily all braiding and weaving. And the second video, that technique is going to be braiding and sewing project. So let's get on with this first project. So this technique, like I said, is practically no-sew. There's a couple little sewing parts in the project, but it can either be done on a sewing machine or by hand. It really doesn't matter, whichever you prefer to do. So the fabric that you're going to need for this first style of rag rug, it's recommended to use something like a knit fabric. T-shirt material is ideal, or any stretchy jersey type of fabric is also okay. There's basically two types of fabrics that we use primarily in sewing projects. A lot of quilting and sewing projects use woven fabric, like cotton flannel shirts or any regular summer type of cotton shirt. That's a woven fabric. You really don't want to use that on this particular rag rug, because on this rug, it'll be an elongated rug, but with rounded corners. And with the cotton fabric, that's a little stiffer and doesn't have any give, as you turn the corners, then that causes them in time to pucker up and your rug won't lay flat. But with t-shirt material, any kind of knit fabric, and a knit fabric is usually stretchier, then with that stretchier fabric, as you turn the corner around both ends of the rug, it has enough give to still lay flat. And so that's what we're going to use primarily on this project. It's recommended to use t-shirt material or some stretchy fabric similar to that. And if you don't have enough t-shirts that you want to cut up and use for this project, do as I did. I went to my local thrift store. Here where I live, there's Goodwill stores, and they have a Goodwill outlet store. And there you can buy as much material as you want because you pay for it by the pound. And so any thrift store that has t-shirts for cheap, it's a good place to source that material if you want to make this project. And so then after you have your materials gathered up, then we want to cut those into 1-inch strips. Now you can make them 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 2 inches. But remember, the wider you make your fabric strips, then the thicker your rug is also going to be. So I chose to make my strips at 1 inch. Here shortly, I'll show you how to cut up the t-shirts and make the fabric strips real quick and easy. I did cut up most all my shirts ahead of time. And so I, just for convenience, put them in a bucket here. That way, that keeps them neat and tidy and then you can work right out of the bucket when you start weaving your rug. So we can go over to the table and I'll show you how to cut up a t-shirt. And then you can go ahead and cut up as many shirts as you think you need. I imagine that this project will eat up more fabric than you imagine. So when you think you have enough, maybe cut a few more. And if you have extra, then you can save those for a future project. All right, let's head over to my work table and I'll show you how to cut up the shirts. And then after that, we'll start putting this project together. All right, all you dude and dudettes, we're over here at my work table. I'm going to show you how to cut up the t-shirts for this rag rug. The things you're going to need to cut all your t-shirts up is a cutting mat, a rolling cutter, and then I find it very handy to use a 24-inch. This is a 24-inch quilter's ruler. It's 6 inches wide by 24 inches long, but it's long enough to go across the shirt. And so I'm going to show you my way of basically filleting the shirt so you end up with the strips that you need for weaving the rug. So I start, being right-handed, I start on the right side. I make sure the shirt is flat. And then after you got it flat, I go up the one side, which splits that open, and then go along and take the sleeve off. Remove that. Then go over to the other side, remove the other sleeve. And then after you get that done, then take both bottom corners, bring those together, fold the shirt in half, and then lay that out on the table. Or lay it out on your cutting mat. Line up your fold to, there's this center heavy line. I line it up with that. And that just keeps the shirt relatively square to your lines. Because then the next thing we want to do is we're going to take off the bottom hem. So make sure it's below one of these 1 inch marks, because we're going to split that off there. And that'll give you a nice square cut. So remove that. And now for the rug, we're going to use 1 inch strips. When you do the woven rag rug, which we're doing now, the wider your strip, then the thicker your rug will be. And so just line it up to each one of these lines on the mat is an inch apart. So just make a cut, move it to the next line, make a cut, and just work all your way up to the top of the shirt. Just stop short of the collar, make your last cut, and then throw the top of that away. All right, well, here we go. I'll cut this one up and you can watch. That'll be my last cut. So the whole top of that gets thrown away. And so we end up with nice long strips that we'll use for weaving our rug. All right, so cut up a lot of shirts, make a good sized pile. When you think you have enough, probably cut some more, because it will eat up quite a bit of material the bigger your rug gets. All right, have fun cutting. After I'm done cutting, we'll get back into the project. All right, Buster, so now that you've got all your shirts cut up into strips, now select 3 strips, preferably at different lengths, because then when you braid them together, when you get down to the end of one and then you attach another one, then you just don't have them all stopping and starting in the same spot. You want to have those end points and beginning points to stagger. So take the first 3 strips and then layer them together. And now here's where we get into our first part of sewing. And like I say, you can sew these 3 together by hand. That's perfectly okay. Or you can just quickly run it on the sewing machine. I have my machine here, so I'm just going to stitch it off on my machine. Okay. Do that. There we go. That's all you need to do for that to get started. So to get it started, we take our 3 strands and need to anchor those down. And I usually just like to tape it down to the table with some painter's tape. That way it won't hurt the finish on your table. Certainly not going to hurt my work table. Take that, just tape the end of that down so it stays still while you braid this. So if most girls learn how to braid early on to do their hair. I learned how to do it to my daughter's hair. So you take the 3 strands, basically take the right one, go over the center, take the left one, now go over the new center, which was your right one, and you just keep doing that until you have a piece about 12 inches long. Okay, yeah, that's 13 inches, that's long enough. Okay, so that'll be the spine of your rug. I'm not going to be making a full-size rug. I'll probably weave something that's about the size of a placemat. You can certainly make it any size that you want or need, but just for demonstration purposes, it'll show you how to start it and then how to do your corners, and then I'll go and finish it. And so a placemat size is adequate for me. All right, so now that you've gotten this far, now it's time to actually stitch in the 4th piece. And so we'll take this back to the sewing machine and pick another color and stitch that on to incorporate at least the 2 outside, this blue one and the green one. We'll stitch another one on top of that, and then we can continue starting to go around back up the spine of our rug here. So let's untape it and take it to the sewing machine. All right, so we're back at the sewing machine. So now you take your 3 strand braid, which is the spine of your rug, and you take a 4th piece of fabric, lay that on top, and you want to make sure that you're going to capture at least 2 strands. So make sure you get those in position so you can stitch on the 4th strand of your rug. And that's all the sewing you're going to have to do for this project. Like I say, both of those first stitching and then this can certainly be done by hand. That's not a problem. Okay, so now let's get into the rest of this project. So now we'll start turning the corner and going back up the spine. And this is where the weaving gets to be a little interesting. So let's talk about that. All right, gang, so you've stitched on your 4th strand. And so now we start weaving things together. Before we start weaving, though, we need to attach safety pins to the ends of the strands. You can also use tapestry needles if you have. I used to have one, but I find that a safety pin, if they're small enough to go through the braids, it works just as well. And probably most people have the small safety pins, and more than likely they don't have the tapestry needles. So like I say, safety pins are just fine. I recommend doubling up the end just for strength on the fabric. So get 4 small safety pins, pin those to the end of your strands. I have a whole box of these. These are actually quilting basting safety pins. If you are a quilter, I know you would have plenty of safety pins. So in the beginning, when you start weaving this together, it's a little challenging when you first are going around the corner just to keep things organized. But you want to try and keep these in the same order from now on. So establish which one's your outside. Be 1, 2, 3, and then your inside is 4. From now on to the end of your project, you take always your outside one. It goes under, so number 1 goes under 2, over 3, under 4, and then into your top loop. Okay, so let's start our first weave. So we go under, over, under, and then through our first top braid loop. And as you progress, it'll get easier as it gets bigger. It'll look rather messy in the very beginning. And keep everything in the same order. And so now your number 1 strand is now in your number 4 position. Okay, and we just repeat that. So we go under, over, under, and then in the next loop. Okay. Say it's important to keep them in the same order all the time. All right, there we go. All right, one more time. We go under, over, under, and into the next loop. All right, so now what was our 4th position strand is now our 1st position strand. So that goes under, over, under, and into the next loop. All right, so that's 1 full circuit. Now you just keep repeating that. Okay, so I'm going to keep going on ahead with this for a while, and when I get to the end of one of our strands, then I'll show you how to splice in another one. All right, dude and didettes, I've made it down one side of the original spine, and I'm getting short on my blue, and so now I can show you how to attach the next piece without having to sew it on. So take off your safety pin, fold over the end of the strip that needs to be spliced on another one, take your scissor and just make a little snip in that, like that. Just make a little hole. There you go, like that. Then take the color that you're going to splice into it and fold that over as well. And then give that a little snip. Okay, so now take that end that you just made a snip, take the piece that you're going to add and run that through the hole of the piece that's already attached to the rug. Like that. Then take the other end of your new strand and run that through the hole in itself. And then pull that all the way through. There you go. Then you have to pull your old piece through the hole in the new piece to finish the process, and then that way it lays together pretty nice like that. And we'll do that again here. I'm getting short on this green one. Okay, so that's how you attach new pieces to keep on going. All right, so at this point, we're just going to keep on going. We'll come down to the bottom here, turn the corner and head back up on the other side. Just keep the same process where you start with your outside, going under number 2, over number 3, under number 4, then in through one of the braid loops, and just keep on doing that until you get it as big as you want. I'll keep on going, and when I get it to the size that I want, I'll show you how to finish it off. Okay, Busters, so here's what I've got accomplished so far. When I signed off with you, I had created the spine, started weaving back up it, and so to accomplish what I have here in front of you, I spent a few hours each night after work in front of the TV doing some of the weaving. This project is not kind of a quick knockout kind of project, especially if you want to make a large rug. Allow yourself time, be patient with it. This is a great project to do in front of the TV. This project, like I say, doesn't happen overnight. So give yourself time enough to do it. You know, work on it when you can. It's easy, but it's time consuming. Anyway, so I'm about finished. I was going to finish weaving off what I have here and then show you how to finish off the rug. So just sort of kind of a recap on how we do the weaving. So it's under, over, under, into the first loop. The other thing to keep an eye on, and this way you know if you've got it right. So once you weave in your first strand, what you should be left with is your new first strand should be over the top of the last strand. Then your second one should be under. And then your third one should be over. And then your new fourth one appears to be over also. So you'll end up with over, under, and then two overs. And if you have that when you've finished your first weave, then you did it right and you're going in the right direction. All right, let's keep going here. The other thing that when you're doing this, you definitely need to have a surface to work on. So if you're like doing it in front of a television or something, if you have a TV tray, a card table that you can set up, somewhere that you can just lay this out, because the bigger it gets, obviously, the more surface you're going to need to help hold the rug, and so you can easily weave your strands without it kind of flopping all over. So yeah, you definitely need some surface to work on when you're doing this. The other thing I've kind of learned also is as you're coming around the corners here, not to pull things too tight. That also helps keep it flat. If you try and get your strands if you try to get your weaves too tight, then that's also when it wants to kind of curl up on you. So just keep it somewhat loose. Okay, so now I've gotten a little past the center of my little rug, and so now it's time to start finishing it off. The way we do that is take the strands, and they get just tucked and woven into the rest of the mat. What you want to use is what's called a yarn needle, or sometimes a tapestry needle. This is a plastic one. If you can find a metal one, it's best. I used to have a metal one and I don't know what happened to it, so I went to the fabric store and all they had was the plastic. And so that's adequate for this. As long as you don't treat it too rough, it'll be fine. So we were using the safety pins for weaving up to this point, and I like using those better just because of the broad heads make it easy to kind of get under these strands. But to tuck in through the rug, the tapestry needle is going to be easier to use. So at this point you can take your safety pins off all 4 strands. And also at this point, you want to make sure you have long enough strands, because you're going to tuck them in through the rug. So if you are to this point and you notice any of them are short, then splice on another piece of fabric, so that way you can weave it into the rug easily. Okay, so we'll take our number 1 strand and thread it into the needle. Okay, and then you just weave that as normal. So under, over, under, and then in through the first one, and then pick that through at an angle. And just get in there far enough so it helps anchor that down really well. And thread up your next strand. Okay, there we go. Just kind of stretch that back out into shape. Okay. And trim that off. All right, so that's how we do the t-shirt woven rag rug, and I hope you enjoyed that. Like I say, it's not a project that you're going to do overnight, but it's really simple and rewarding. And like I say, if you have a lot of old shirts you want to get rid of, it's a good way to do that as well. And like I say, you can always go to the thrift store and get as many shirts as you want, usually for cheap, and then you can cut them up. All right, let's go back over to the table and we'll talk about our next project. I hope you enjoyed that project and I hope you learned something new. If you did, maybe share this with some friends. Tell them about me. That would really help out my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up. And next time, we're going to be doing the second in our series of rag rugs. Well, our next one will be braided, but then if you're familiar with our rope bowl videos, it'll be done similar to that. This will be more of a sewing project. You will go ahead and braid out the fabric, and then we're going to stitch it together to create our rug. So don't forget to come back for our next video for this different style of rag rug. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to tell your friends about me. Don't forget to subscribe, ring that bell, and don't forget, baby, peace out, and don't forget to go out and bust out some art.